So think about some of the qualities that Nagarjuna spoke about that ministers, directors of Dharma sites, treasurers, good advisors, those qualities that he recommended those people have, such as truthfulness, friendliness, faith in the Dharma, careful use of resources, humility, kindness, politeness, and other good qualities. And think of which qualities are the ones that you admire the most and want to cultivate in yourself. So identify those qualities that you want to develop. And then think, what situations do you encounter where those qualities would be very helpful to you? And think of how you can remember to practice those qualities in those situations. And imagine what that would look like. How would you speak, think, act? So think of specific situations and qualities and how you could really implement them. Imagine that. And then make a strong determination to generate those qualities in your life. And especially now, before listening to the Dharma, generate compassion, tolerance for all living beings, and an aspiration to become fully awakened so that you can benefit them most effectively with humility. So, good morning, everybody. Here we are with Nagarjuna again. So we left off yesterday with the agents, or spies, however you want to read the verse, going off to check up what's going on in the community and making sure what's going on in the country, and making sure that people are okay, that they have what they need, that there aren't outbreaks of disease or turmoil. Okay, so this is, whatever kind of organization we are in, if we're in a leadership position, also to be able to check up what's going on with the different people there, how they're feeling, what they're encountering. Yeah, so leadership should never be so high that it is detached or unaware of what's going on among the common people. So we should always be involved and see ourselves as, one of many. Okay, so this is especially important as Buddhist practitioners, that we don't become arrogant because we have a precious human life or because we know some Dharma. We shouldn't put ourselves above others, because if we look at the state of our current mind, I don't know about you, but I don't have any realizations. So there's nothing particularly to be proud about. Yeah? And so even His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, says that even when he's on the throne teaching, he just sees himself as an older brother in the Dharma, and just shares what he knows with others. He doesn't see himself as, the big Dharma king or something like that. Okay. And you can really see that, the way he interacts with people in a very natural, very humble way. Okay, we're on verse 339. Through extensive and suitable generosity, respect, and service, devote yourself always to those who are the foundation of good qualities. Do the same for the rest as is appropriate. Okay, so the foundation of all good qualities here means the Sangha, the monastic community. And so this verse follows the verse about sending out agents, because as the leader of the country, he's recommending that the king check on all the Dharma establishments and make sure that people have what they need. and not just the Dharma establishments, but he says do the same for the rest. So really check on all the populace and see how people are doing, and respond to them with extensive and suitable generosity. So be very generous in terms of what people need, but have wise generosity. So suitable generosity, not what we call Mickey Mouse generosity, okay, where somebody that we know has a drug or alcohol problem is asking us for money, and we give them money, and we know they're going to use it for drugs and alcohol. That's ridiculous generosity. Okay, we should really tell people, I won't give you money for drinking and drugging, but I'm very happy to take you to treatment. Okay, so wise generosity is very important. Yeah, and really when people ask us for help, figuring out when to give them advice and when to ask them questions so that they can access their own wisdom. Yeah, it's very important. Teaching people how to think for themselves. How to make wise decisions. So I always, regarding that, because nowadays people have so much freedom and so many choices that they tend to get very confused. Have you noticed that? Oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could go here, I could go there. Which one should I do? What's going to bring me the most happiness? Where will I get the most gain? This has disadvantages, that has advantages. I don't know what to do. Do I marry this one? Do I separate from that one? Do I have kids? Do I not have kids? Do I go to work? Do I stay home? What do I do? And people's heads are just spinning in confusion. Yeah, and I think often that's because the criteria we're using to make the decision is how will I get the most happiness and benefit right now in this life? And so it's always difficult to determine that. What is going to give us the most happiness and benefit? And I know for myself, I don't go shopping because even for food, at the Abbey, we only eat the food that people offer us. Because you go even in the grocery store and, you stand there and you want to buy cookies, or I think you call them biscuits, and you stand there and they go from here to there. And which ones do I want? Because here to there and floor to ceiling and... Oh, thank you. And I can't decide which ones to get, because what's going to bring me the most happiness? Right now, I want to eat chocolate chip cookies, but when I get home, I might want ginger snaps. Yeah? So which do I get? Or do I get both? But maybe when I get home, I'm going to want some other kind of biscuit instead. Oh, what do I do? Because my criteria is my pleasure, immediate pleasure. Yeah? So, and that just brings confusion. So what I've learned is to try and think which decision will create the circumstances for me to keep my ethical conduct the best. Yeah? In other words, let's not put myself in different circumstances where I could be forced by the circumstances or tempted by the circumstances to act unethically. Yeah, because for me, my ethical conduct is very important, because that's going to influence what I'm reborn as. It's going to influence my ability to meet the Dharma in the future. Yeah, so, I want to make sure that I put myself in good circumstances. Yeah, so that's one criteria. The second criteria, after I established that, is what circumstance can I increase my bodhicitta? Yeah. Where will I be able to receive teachings on bodhicitta, practice bodhicitta, have the opportunity to benefit sentient beings in a meaningful way? Yeah. And so investigate that among the different alternatives. Okay? So I find that those two things for me work very well to help me assess what decision to take. Yeah? But you may find in looking at your own life that there may be other criteria. But I really encourage you to choose values and principles above immediate pleasure and status and fame and the 8 worldly concerns. Yeah, for when you make decisions, because that will help us make better decisions that we won't regret later. Okay. Then he's going to talk about the relationship between the king and the populace. Okay, or between the leader and the other people in the organization. If the tree of kingship offers the shade of tolerance, the open flowers of respect, and the great fruit of generosity, then the birds, your subjects, will flock to it. Yeah? So if you're a leader who is tolerant, who is respectful of all the different kinds of people, different belief systems, different races, religions, genders, sexual orientations, and so on of the people in your country, and you're respectful of them and you're generous to them, then of course they're going to be very happy to exist under, your government. Whereas if you're a leader who is bigoted and criticizes people and intolerant and helps some and denigrates others and so forth, then of course the people aren't going to trust you. Okay? A munificent but magnificent king will be beloved like sugar candy with a hard crust made from cardamom and black pepper. Okay, so this verse needs a little bit of explanation, what do I do? Put cardamom and black pepper over my skin to make a hard crust. So what he's talking about, there's apparently a candy in ancient India that is very sweet and soft in the inside, but the crust can be hard. So this is referring to a leader who is basically gentle and compassionate, but when the situation necessitates it, can be very strong and forceful to let people know that certain behavior is not appropriate and that this may not be done in the kingdom or, to the country. Okay? Because if the king is always soft and generous as a leader, then other people may try and take advantage or manipulate. So the king has to, the leader has to know when to be really direct and forceful with a kind motivation, but to really specify this may be done and this may not be done. Because if the leader can act this way, then the people can trust the leader to guide them and protect them in a suitable way. But that does not necessitate bombing people. Okay? And then the 342, if you reign properly in this way, your kingdom will not be chaotic. It will not proceed improperly, nor contradict the Dharma, but will be in harmony with the Dharma. Okay? So if a leader governs in this kind of way, then the organization, the country, the family, whatever it is, people will feel settled. They'll feel good about the leadership. And they too will practice the Dharma and look at the example of the leader and make good decisions and treat other people respectfully and generously. So that's why people who do consultation in business and corporations, they really see that things, the feeling of the organization starts with the people at the top, and it filters down. So if the people at the top are irritable and bad-natured and, kind of self-concerned, then that filters down in the whole organization, and then all the employees compete with each other. They don't cooperate. They have an us versus them mentality. Whereas if the leaders are really leading the organization properly and have generosity and keep good ethical conduct, then it filters down and the other people really see that. So you can see this nowadays in some of the things like the Me Too movement, where men at top echelons were really abusing women and having so much sexual harassment, and that just being an accepted thing within the organization by all the people on the lower levels. Well, if the leader's doing it, so can I. It's no big deal. And so I think it's quite good that this is being called out now, that this is not appropriate behavior on the part of a leader or on the part of the people in the lower echelons. Okay? But you can see, especially when the leader is behaving improperly, it just gives people permission, everybody permission, to really be obnoxious. And this is what you see happening very much now, I think, not only in my country, but throughout Europe. There's a rise in the right wing. And when you have the rise in the right wing and people who are vocalizing, very discriminatory opinions and policies, then it gives the rest of society permission to also have those kinds of ideas and to vocalize them. And then it leads the whole country into a morass of suffering, And that's what we saw happen in World War II. And we have to be careful that people don't start thinking like that again, because it's just too dangerous for society and people's welfare. So you see, what Nagarjuna is saying is very practical, isn't it? Here he is, he's an incredible Pandit who has realized the subtle emptiness and the nature of reality, and yet he can speak to the common person about really important things on how to live in society. So I think this is, like as I mentioned yesterday, a really good example of the bodhisattva ideal. So sometimes in being a bodhisattva, you have to, disconnect for a while, even though mentally you always live in relationship to everybody. But you may have to, do very serious practice and so not be so involved socially. But then have as the motivation, as a result of your deep practice, then to really go out and benefit other living beings. Okay, 343. You have not brought your kingdom with you from previous life, nor will you bring it to the next. You obtained it through the Dharma, so it is not right to violate Dharma for its sake. Okay, so here he's really telling the king, the next few verses, to cease non-Dharma activities. So I think we did this verse on Friday night, that telling the king that, you didn't bring your previous, you didn't have a kingdom in a previous life that you brought with you to this life, but you have your present kingdom, you have your present prosperity because of what you did in previous lives. So that's what, obtained it through the Dharma means, that due to acting in accord with the Dharma and acting virtuously, the king has the present situation, just as we have such an incredible, amazing opportunity in this life. I mean, just being born in a country that is not at war, where you have food, clothing, medicine, shelter, where you have Dharma teachers, you have Dharma friends, you can receive teachings. It's incredible benefit. I mean, imagine being born in Afghanistan. Yeah? Very difficult there. Very difficult. Yeah. So, and even, I had a friend of mine who, when Eastern Europe was all communist before the wall fell, he used to go there to teach the Dharma, and he told me that what he would often do is, because he had to teach in people's home, and everybody had to arrive separately at different times so that the government wasn't suspicious that there was a group coming. And then in the outer room, they would set up a card game on a table, and then they would go into the inner room and have the teachings. But in case the police came and somebody knocked at the door, they could easily go in the outer room and pretend to be playing cards instead of having the Dharma teaching. Now imagine what it would be like to live in a country where you had to be that protective of yourself just to be able to practice your religion. Yeah? Or imagine living in Tibet, especially after the communists first took over, where you could be in prison just for moving your mouth saying mantra. Yeah, so we're incredibly fortunate, and we got this opportunity due to virtue we created in previous lives. So Nagarjuna is saying here, because we receive this through the Dharma, then it's not right to violate the Dharma for its sake. So, keep good ethical conduct, practice well now. Yeah, don't, for the sake of this life, act contradictory to the Dharma, because then next life, we won't have this kind of situation. 344, King, through your efforts, see to it that you do not end up perpetuating the stockpiling of suffering through your kingship's stockpiles. King, through your effort, see to it that you manage to perpetuate your stockpiling of kingship through your kingship's stockpiles. In other words, what you accumulate by being the leader, don't, at the end of your life see that you've created so much suffering amongst other people, like you're stockpiling negative deeds, you're stockpiling suffering, that our whole life has just been lived in a very self-centered way, causing havoc and disturbance in other people's lives. Instead of living like that and having that at the end of our life, to really live in accord with the Dharma, abandon the 10 non-virtues, keep our precepts, whether they're the the 5 lay precepts, monastic precepts, bodhisattva precepts, tantric vows and commitments, to keep these and stockpile virtue in that way in our life. And then at the time of death, we can rejoice at a life that's well lived and go on to our next life without fear of a lower rebirth. Okay, so that's his advice. Okay, now we're moving into another section that's going to be a little bit more challenging. Okay, because here Nagarjuna is throughout this text of, he goes back and forth between talking about emptiness and conventional truth. He goes back and forth and back and forth. And now, at the beginning of this chapter, he was talking about living in conventional society and, living properly in that way. Now he's going to go into talking more about the ultimate truth, and he's going to do this by examining the nature of pain and pleasure, okay? Because our feeling aggregate, our 5 aggregates, the body, feeling, discrimination, miscellaneous factors, and consciousness. The feeling aggregate, consists of painful, pleasurable, and neutral feelings, or sometimes we say suffering, happiness, and neutral feelings. Some of these feelings are physical, some of them are mental, some of them derive through contact with our senses, eyes, ears, nose, taste, tactile senses. Some of them, the feelings of pain, pleasure, and neutrality come because in our mental consciousness, because of objects and conceptions that objects we perceive mentally and conceptions we have. And so based on the feelings that we experience, then we tend to react to them quite immediately. And this is quite a good mindfulness practice to observe in your life the feelings that arise and the almost immediate responses we have. So when we have a pleasant feeling, what's our usual response? I don't want it to go away and I want more. Right? Okay, so attachment. When we have an unpleasant or painful feeling, what's our usual response? I don't like it, get it away. Okay. When we have a neutral feeling, not pain, not pleasure, then what happens? I don't care. And we get just kind of spaced out or confused, okay? So if you remember in the 12 links, I think some of you have studied the 12 links of dependent arising. So you remember after the link, you have the link of the 6 sources, our 6 faculties that apprehend objects. And then you have the link of contact, and then that produces feeling. And what's the link that comes after feeling? Craving. Okay. And the link after craving is clinging, or sometimes it translated as grasping. Both craving and clinging are forms of attachment. Okay? The craving, we crave to have more pleasant feelings, based on the pleasant feelings. We crave pleasant feelings, and we crave to be free of painful feelings. And we crave for neutral feelings not to go away, because neutral feelings beat pain. Okay? That's one way of describing craving. There's many different ways of talking about craving, but that's one way. And so we can see that in our lives. Yeah? When we act out of attachment, and greed, then what happens? Okay, we can kill people out of greed. We rob, unwise and unkind sexual behavior, chiefly motivated by greed. Lying to get what we want. Okay, harsh, divisive speech, making people not get along so that we can get what we want, harsh speech, idle talk, coveting. Yeah, even malice can be done motivated by attachment, and so can wrong views. So, we very easily, when attachment arises, then we do the 10 non-virtues, create disturbing karma, or negative karma, and then that karma will influence what we're reborn as, what we experience when we're reborn, our environment, our habitual tendencies. Yeah. The same thing when we have unpleasant feelings, then anger, animosity arises. We lash out at people, at our surroundings. We do, again, the 10 non-virtues. They create, again, destructive karma. The seeds of that destructive karma ripen at the time of death, can throw us into an unfortunate rebirth, and even if we're reborn human, influence the environment we're born into, what we experience, our habitual tendencies, and so forth. Okay? So, this feeling is quite important, and our response to feeling, this one thing in the link of 12 links of dependent arising, they say that there's 2 places you can break the series. The first one is by abandoning ignorance, which is the first link, which starts the whole thing going. And the second place is between the link of feeling and the link of craving. Okay, so if we can create some space and just be aware of our feelings without reacting to them, okay, with craving for, the craving that goes to attachment, to have more and better, craving that goes to craving to be free of the unpleasant situations and so on. If we can restrain, create a gap between feelings and our responses, then there's the opportunity to stop creating more and more karma for rebirth in cyclic existence. Okay, so that's why this whole analysis he's going to give right now about feelings and our responses to feelings is so important. Okay? Because I would think, all of us are very sensitive to what we experience, aren't we? Yeah. And like I was saying before, most of our decisions in life are based on how can I experience the most pleasure and how can I avoid any kind of pain and suffering. Yeah? Wouldn't you say that's what motivates you most of the time? Yeah? When we wake up in the morning, maybe our first thought is, I want to go back to sleep. So that's the ignorance thing. But then, okay, I got to get out of bed. Coffee. Yeah? The pleasant feeling that arises from coffee, okay? And then attachment for coffee, craving for coffee. Okay, I'll get out of bed. Yeah? And then you start thinking about the day. Oh, I gotta go to work. I have to meet this certain client or customer. Oh, yuck. Or after work, I have to go, do this and that, see this person I don't like. How can I get out of doing it? Yeah? And then we start thinking, how can we avoid some kind of unpleasant situation? Okay? So all day long, this is what's going on. Yeah? And that's why Lama Yeshe, my teacher, said we are like emotional yo-yos. Okay? Something pleasant, I feel good. Then the next moment, something unpleasant. Ugh. Then pleasant. There's someone I like. Good. Ooh, the food at lunch is terrible. Bad. But the dessert is good. Up. Yeah. Oh, but I have to go back to work and have a meeting that I don't want to go to. Ugh. So all day long, we're really, you remember the toy, the yo-yo toy? Yeah? So we're like emotional yo-yos. Yeah? And people who meet us, they don't know what to expect from us. We're totally unpredictable because we're so moody. Yeah? And so who knows, people say hello and they don't know whether they're going to get hello or hello. Yeah. Do you have people in your life that you're never quite sure what you're going to meet when you go see them or call them? Yeah. So you're kind of, you text instead so that you don't have to. Yeah. Okay. But of course we're consistent and pleasant and nice, aren't we? Okay. Actually, let me digress here for a minute, but who are the people that we tend to be the meanest to? Okay? The people that you care the most about are strangers. Who are the people you tend to be meanest to? How many people say the people you care about the most? How many people say strangers? Okay. It's very interesting, isn't it? The people we care about the most are the people that we dump our negative emotions on. Is that reasonable? Is that sane? Yeah? What?
Part of the contract.
Part of the contract? Really? You must have put it in very small print. Yeah. But it's true. We almost feel like these people, we're so close to them that we don't have to act with regular manners. Yeah. We don't have to monitor our behavior, say please or thank you. We can just be spontaneous. Yeah. Especially my generation. Remember spontaneous? Yeah, it means whatever pops into your mind, you do it. Is that so smart? To just do whatever pops into your mind? Yeah. Not so smart. We should learn through our own experience. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see, because the people who we're closest to are actually the people we should treat the best. Because supposedly we care the most about them. And also we live with them. And if we want to have a happy life, we should treat the people we live with well. Because if we don't, then we're going to live with a bunch of unhappy people. And that's not going to make our own life very happy. And yet we treat those same people very poorly. Yeah? Of course, when you first fall in love, they're magnificent, you know. Best thing since sliced bread. Yeah? But then afterwards, they just become our, you know, we just throw out whatever onto them and leave them to deal with it. So what I really suggest as a Dharma practice is not only setting your motivation in the morning when you first wake up. Today I'm not going to harm anybody as much as possible. Today I'm going to be kind to others. And third, I'm going to keep bodhicitta in my mind all day. Generate that motivation when we first get up in the morning. And then be pleasant to your family when you get up in the morning. Yeah. Some people, you know, getting your kids off to school, parents sometimes, they become like, you know, sergeants in the army. Get up, brush your teeth, wash behind your ears. Did you do your homework? You didn't do your homework? Get it done now. Eat breakfast. Yeah, get in the car, go to the school bus, ride your bike, get to school on time. Yeah, you're like a drill sergeant to kids. Yeah? Do parents ever kind of look your children in the eye and say, "Hi, I love you"? Yeah? How is your day? What are you going to do today? Tell me about your friends. Okay? And so I suggest that practice of setting our motivation in the morning and then really trying to speak to our family in a nice way. And then also, when you come home from work in the evening, stop before you enter the house. Just stop and remind yourself, I'm going into my home to be with the people that I'm close to, that I care about, and I want to treat them in a good way and be interested in their lives and not just use them as tools for my own happiness. Yeah? And so really come back to your motivation before you open the door. Yeah? And then when you open the door, you can go in and you can be with your family and you've set your motivation and it's more likely to be kind. Yeah? Otherwise, we just kind of walk in the door and like, oh God, I'm so exhausted from work, slam something down. I just want to space out. You know, where's my dinner? Where's my this? Where's my that? Yeah, oh, why are you making so much noise? Be quiet. Yeah. Hell, who wants a family life like that? Yeah. So don't have the mind that says, well, the rest of the family should be nice to me, and then I will respond with kindness. No. You set the standard. Yeah, you set the standard. And you change your behavior. And if you change your behavior in the family, everybody else is going to have to change. Yeah, because especially if you have some ongoing family dynamic, yeah, then if one party changes, the whole dynamic can't continue. Yeah. So really work on your motivation and work on your speech. Speech is so powerful. Yeah, speech is so powerful. And so really take care what you say to other people. Okay, so that's really Dharma in practice. And if we do that, we see a result very quickly. Yeah, very quickly. Yeah, your teenagers may start saying hello to you if you say hello to them first. Yeah. And if you ask about their day, and if you show some interest in the things they're doing, even though you aren't interested in those things. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to get into Nagarjuna's analysis here. So even after a wheel-turning monarch attains governance over the whole world with its 4 continents. Okay, so this is ancient Indian mythology. There's a wheel-turning king that governs the 4 continents. Yeah. Pleasure for this person is still considered to be only twofold, physical and mental. Only 2 kinds of pleasure. A pleasurable physical sensation is just comparatively less pain. Mental pleasure, by nature and attitude, is just conceptually created. Okay, so this verse needs some explanation. A pleasurable physical sensation is just comparatively less pain. Now we think, and conventionally we speak of, there's pleasure and there's pain. Okay, when you're cold, it's painful. When you're too hot, it's painful. When you're just the right temperature, it's pleasurable. Okay, so we think that pain and pleasure exist in and of themselves. Yeah, but actually, if we investigate, if our body does nothing, basically pain comes. We have to exert a great deal of effort to keep our body comfortable. If we don't do anything, we get hungry, we get thirsty, our legs hurt, our back hurts. Things hurt if we just sit there and do nothing. So kind of pain comes naturally to this body. It's a body taken under the influence of afflictions and karma. It's not going to be a perfect body. It's not a body of light like those who have realized emptiness have. Okay? It's not a body of the Arya Bodhisattvas. So it's going to experience pain. And what we call pleasure, if we examine, is only a lessening of pain. Okay? So, we don't do anything, just let our body be. We get hungry. Okay? So, we go for lunch, we start eating. Yeah? The pleasure that we get from eating isn't pleasure in and of itself. Yeah. What's happening is the pain from hunger starts to decrease. And as that pain from hunger decreases, we say, oh, I'm experiencing the pleasure of eating. Okay? Now, if the pleasure of eating were real pleasure, the more we ate, the happier we should be. But what happens when we continue eating? Oh, my stomach hurts. Okay? So we see by the example that eating isn't true pleasure. Yeah? It's just the alleviation of the pain of hunger. Because the action of eating itself becomes painful if we keep doing it. Okay? So you might think, well, what about the pleasure of being with my really good friend? Yeah? I just want to be with my friend all the time. Okay, so there you are. You're with your friend 24/7. No breaks. Yeah. No, not even pee-pee breaks. Okay? Then, at the beginning, oh, I'm with my friend, this is so nice, I really enjoy this person's company. Then what happens after a while? Yeah? Can I be alone? Can I do something else? I've heard all your jokes before. You know, you were good company to start with, and I love you, but, you know, I need to do something else. I need a break. I want to be alone. I want to go out running or jogging or watch the soccer game or knit or whatever it is, okay? So if being with that person, you know, when we're alone too long, we get lonely, okay? So that's the suffering of loneliness. Then we start off being with that person. We feel pleasure. It's so nice to be with our good friend. Yeah? But if that were true pleasure, the more we were with that person, the happier we would be. But we see after a while, we want a change of scenery. It turns into suffering. Okay? So that's why we say in samsara, yeah, we often talk about 3 kinds of dukkha, dukkha meaning unsatisfactory conditions. The first is outright pain. The second is the unsatisfactory condition of change, meaning that even the pleasure we have eventually changes into something unpleasurable. And then the third kind of dukkha is the dukkha of just having a body and mind under the influence of karma and afflictions. Okay? So this verse is speaking about that, yeah? So then the second 2 lines, mental pleasure by nature and attitude is just conceptually created. Okay? So mental pleasure. We think, oh, pleasure. Yeah? So we, okay, here's this beautiful fruit. Yeah? I taste the fruit. I feel physical pleasure from the nice taste of the fruit. Okay? Then my mind gets activated, the mental consciousness gets activated, and it's like, oh, that blackberry tasted so good. I really like blackberries. And I want more blackberries. And blackberries also remind me of when I was a kid and I'd go to my grandmother's house in the countryside at the end of summer, and there would be blackberries, and we used to gather them. And, it was so nice having all this blackberry pie and running around at my grandma's house in the countryside when I was a kid. And then we're off daydreaming, okay? So all of that is the mental consciousness. Okay? We're no longer actively tasting the blackberry or the blueberry or the raspberry or the strawberry or whatever it is. Okay? But our mental consciousness is now, when we tasted the blackberry, that is direct perception. Okay? The mental consciousness thinking about the blackberry, remembering our childhood in the countryside, all of that is conceptual. Okay? Conceptual consciousnesses, we are not experiencing things directly. We're experiencing them through the medium of what's called, I translate it as conceptual appearance. Some people translate it as generic image, meaning generality. There's many different translations. But basically, it's an appearance to a conceptual mind. Okay? So it's an image of the general object because we're thinking about it, we're remembering it. We have a general image. It's not the direct experience. So the pleasure that we have through mental consciousness, is all conceptual. So it depends on how we think, how we remember something, how we look at something. So here we can, so easily see how our mind creates our happiness and our misery. Okay? For example, let's say you're a stranger coming into Jewel Heart, because all of us were at one point strangers coming here. Okay? Coming into, I came here, I didn't know any of you. I walked into a room, I didn't know anybody. Okay? So, you're there prior to walking into a room where you don't know anybody. It could be a party, it could be a work situation, it could be at the Dharma Center, wherever it is. Then we may think, oh, all those people in that room, they're a community, they know each other. I don't know any of them. I don't know what to do. I'm walking into this Buddhist center. How am I supposed to sit? What am I supposed to do? What am I not supposed to do? I might do the wrong thing. Then other people are going to give me dirty looks and they won't like me. Because, but I don't know what to do. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm sure to blow it. So I don't know if those people are going to like me. I don't know if I'm going to fit in. Okay? So you may feel that way before walking into a room full of people you don't know. Okay? One person may have that feeling. What's the feeling in their mind? Pleasant or unpleasant? Unpleasant. Okay. Now another person may say, oh, I'm going into a room where I don't know anybody. There's going to be all sorts of people with different life experiences there. And it'll be very interesting if I meet them and talk to them, because I'll get to hear about their lives and different experiences and learn about the world. And it's going to be really fun getting to know all those different people and seeing what they're like. And I'm going to a Buddhist center. I don't know anything about Buddhism. This is going to be interesting. Okay? That person, what's the feeling in their mind? Pleasant. Okay? Both people have not had direct experience of being in the room. Okay? One person, by the way they're thinking, is miserable. One person, by the way they're thinking, is happy. Okay? The happiness and the suffering are created completely by the mind. They don't have anything to do with the actual object. Very interesting, isn't it? Okay. So that's before you have the experience. Then, you walk into the room, and you interact with some people. And automatically, as we interact with people, our confused, afflictive mind starts interpreting what we experience. So let me give you an example. This is a true story. I have a friend, and her son was getting married. And he was marrying a woman from Iran, and who had a very close-knit family. And my friend, the family was throwing a party for them before the wedding, like a party with all the family and friends, and I guess maybe an engagement party, something like that. So she went down to Los Angeles for the party, and she didn't know anybody. She had met her son's fiancé very, very briefly, but didn't know her well. she walks into the room, and the fiancé is, she walks in, is sitting over there talking to somebody, and she walks in and like, oh, I don't know anybody. Oh, there's the fiancé. I know, I met her once. But she's not even getting up to say hello to me. You know, I'm her future husband's mother, and she just continues to talk to her friend. And she knows I don't know anybody. Why doesn't she come up and greet me and introduce me to her family? I mean, this is just too much. And my son's marrying her? Oh my God, what's going to happen? Okay? Very miserable, very upset. Okay? So she told us this story. And we were doing a nonviolent communication training. Any of you do NVC? Yeah, it's very, very useful. It's a system developed by Marshall Rosenberg. So the first step in a situation when you're doing nonviolent communication is just to describe the situation without any interpretation and without any emotive language. Okay? So when my friend had to do that, yeah, she said what the actual bare bones of the situation was. I opened the door, I walked into the room. My son's fiancé was sitting there talking to somebody. That was all that happened. Yeah, that's the bare bones what happened. And she began to see that all the rest was her interpretation, her projection on the situation that made her quite miserable. Okay? So in any situation, we have the choice of how to interpret a situation. And this is actually the basic premise behind the thought training teachings. The Lojong teachings is basically this. You choose how you interpret a situation. And if you choose to interpret it according to the Dharma, you can make any situation pleasurable or at least endurable, and you can transform it into virtue. Even if it's a situation that other people would say is harmful and painful, or that you might initially react to as harmful and painful, you can interpret it in a different way and change your experience of it. Yeah? So my friend, when she realized that all this misery that, about who her son was marrying was coming from her mind, then she just kind of let it drop. And, okay, there's my future daughter-in-law talking to somebody and having a good time and being friendly to somebody. Isn't that nice? Yeah? And I'm an adult. I can go into a room and introduce myself to people. Yeah? And then she felt okay about the situation. Okay? So it depends how we interpret it. Even somebody actively to our face criticizes us, we don't have to get angry. Yeah? We can say, oh, let's listen to what this person's saying. Yeah? Is it true? Is it not true? If their criticism is true, thank you very much for telling me how I can improve, because my Dharma practice is all about becoming a better person, and you've just given me some feedback about how to improve. Doesn't matter you said it in a loud voice. Yeah, the basic information is useful to me, thank you. Yeah. Or you gave me some feedback. Yeah, you misinterpreted the situation. I don't need to get angry because of that. Yeah, when you calm down, I can explain to you, another view of the situation. Yeah, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice fortitude and to practice patience. Yeah, then we're okay during this situation. Okay? So our conceptualization really influences our experience of pain and pleasure. Now, unfortunately, this is as far as we're going to get in this section. Because, I have to go to the airport later this afternoon. So we have to end on time. And I wanted to pass out some, these are called mani pills, not money pills, mani pills, okay? So these are, some of you may have been to Dharamsala, but almost every year His Holiness's office makes mani pills. Mani as in O Mani Padme Hum. Okay, so they're little pills. They're made out of herb substances, relics, and so on. They make they're teeny pills, but they make so many that there's enormous bags. They bring them up to the main temple, and then all the Sangha comes, all the lay people come, not all, but many come, and they recite O Mani Padme Hum millions and millions of times to infuse these pills with the energy of compassion. Okay? So these came from Dharamsala, so blessed by His Holiness and everybody there. And you can take them either by, there's a little thing inside that tells you how to take them, but you can either swallow them whole, dissolve them in your mouth. Okay? You can keep them for yourself, share them with others. You can use them now or save them for difficult situations, whatever you choose. But whenever you take them, then to recite O Mani Padme Hum and think about compassion. And if you can, think about Chenrezig in front of you and light from Chenrezig, compassionate light from Chenrezig coming to you as you recite O Mani Padme Hum. Okay? So, let's dedicate the merit. Yeah. And then we'll give out the mani pills. And then, So actually the Tibetans say it's quite auspicious when you don't finish something. Because that means when it's not finished that you have to meet again in order to finish it. Okay? But I encourage you to get the book. Okay, this is a free public announcement. Because Khenze Rinpoche has a really wonderful explanation of this whole thing about pain and pleasure in the book. It's very clear and very helpful.